Hey mathematicians, it's JP from Geeky Teachy. Today we're going to be comparing and ordering decimals. So we're going to start with something simple. We're going to compare 0 and 9/10 and 0 and 5/10. Notice that I've already rotated my paper so that my lines are running vertically, and I'm using these columns as place values. Now, the most important thing we want to remember when comparing and ordering decimals is to line up our decimals. So I'm going to take this 5/10 and I'm going to line it up under my 9/10. That way my ones places are all lined up, my decimals are lined up, and my tenths place are lined up. So we always start in our largest place value, our furthest left place value. So in this case, it's going to be the ones place. Now, I can't compare digits that are the same because they are equal. One 0 can't be greater than another 0 or less than another 0. So we're going to move to the tenths place and compare those digits there. Now, if I want to compare these, I'm looking for which one is larger. So when we're counting, which number comes second? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 is larger than 5. So we would say 9/10 is greater than 5/10. Let's do another one of those, but this time let's put our numbers into the hundredths place. So let's compare 0 and 25 hundredths to 0 and 36 hundredths. So again, I want to line up my decimals. So I want to make sure that my ones place are lined up, my decimal places are lined up, my tenths are in the same column, and my hundredths are in the same column. So again, I'm going to start in my farthest left, or my largest place value, which in this case is the ones place. Again, I cannot compare these zeros because they are equal. So I'm going to move to my tenths place, and I need to figure out which number is larger, the 2 or the 3. Well, if I start counting from 0 and go up to 2, 3 comes after 2, meaning 3 is larger than 2. So 25 hundredths is going to be less than 36 hundredths. Now let's get into some ordering, comparing and ordering. So I want to, let's do 0 and 61 hundredths, 0 and 71 hundredths, 0 and 75 hundredths, and 0 and 65 hundredths. Let's compare these from greatest to least. So greatest to least. That means I'm going from the biggest number, and I'm finding the biggest number first, and then I'm going to the next biggest, to finally the smallest number. So we need to start first by comparing our numbers before we can order them. When we're comparing them, that will tell us which number is biggest, which is smallest. So again, I'm going to line these numbers up, make sure all my place values are lined up, make sure my decimals are lined up, and then I can start comparing. Okay, so we're going to start in our farthest left place value, which is the ones place. These are all zeros, so I cannot compare zeros. Not one is bigger than the other, no 0 is less than the other. So we're going to need to move over to the tenths place to compare. So since we're going from greatest to least, I'm looking for the number that is largest. So in this case, it's going to be 7. 7 is larger than 6, but I have two numbers that have the digit 7 in the tenths place. So I cannot determine which of those 7s is larger until I compare in the hundredths place. So I know that one of these 7s is going to be the greatest, but I don't know which one yet. So we'll move to the hundredths place and we'll compare there. So knowing what I know about numbers, I know that 5 is more than 1, is greater than 1. So that means that this 0 and 75 hundredths is going to be greatest. Now I like to pull those numbers out and create a little chart so I can keep track. So this 75 hundredths is going to be first. That's going to be my greatest number. And once I've recorded that separately, I'm going to eliminate that number because I'm no longer comparing it to the other numbers. Now I know that this 7 is still greater than these 6's, so this 71 hundredths is going to be my next greatest, my second greatest. Not quite as great as the 75 hundredths, but still greater than these 60 tenths, 6 tenths. Okay, so now that I've eliminated 2 numbers, now I can go back and compare these last 2 numbers. But I cannot compare them in the tenths place because they have the same digit. So I need to go to the hundredths place and compare their digits there. So I know 5 is greater than 1, so this 65 hundredths is going to be greater than this 61 hundredths. So I'll record the 65 hundredths next. And then eliminate that, and we're left with 61 hundredths. So a way I can check this, when I'm working with decimals, I can always think about money, right? So if we think about 4 people having some money, obviously they don't have any dollars, they just have cents, we can look at these numbers behind the decimal and ask, is 75 greater than 71? Yep. Is 71 greater than 65? Yes. And is 65 greater than 61? Yes. All right, let's go ahead and do another example. Let's compare some numbers with whole numbers in the ones place. So let's compare 4.6, 4.8, 5.3, and 4.1. So again, the first thing we need to do is line up our place values and our decimals. So I'm going to pull these numbers below, make sure my ones places are lined up, and my tenths and my decimals. So it's the same process as we've done before. We're going to start in our farthest left place value, except this time we actually have some numbers to compare. So let's do least to greatest this time, since we did greatest to least last time. So we are looking for our smallest number, least, the least. So just looking at my ones place, I already know that this 5 is going to be bigger than all 3 of these 4s. So I'm just going to go ahead and ignore the 5 and 3 tenths for right now and just look at these 4s. So I'm going to go to my tenths place and I'm going to compare these 3 digits. And I'm looking for the least, so I'm going to look for the smallest tenths place. So it looks like 1 is my smallest number in the tenths place. So I'm going to pull that 4 and 1/10 out and start my chart. So I can eliminate 4 and 1/10. Next is going to be 4 and 6/10 because the 6 is slightly larger than the 1, but not as big or great as the 8. So 4 and 6/10 will come next. Eliminate that. And lastly, the 8 is going to be the biggest when comparing the 4s, right? So it has the biggest hundredths or tenths place out of the 4s. So 4 and 8/10 will come next. And then all we're left with is the 5 and 3/10. Now we should have known just by comparing these ones places that our 5 was going to be the greatest because it had the greatest ones place. All right, let's do one more with whole numbers in the ones place going to the hundredths place. So let's compare 7 and 32 hundredths, 6 and 99 hundredths, 7 and 23 hundredths, and 7 and 29 hundredths. So just like we've done when comparing all of our other examples, we're going to line up our place values and our decimals. And we're going to start in our farthest left or largest place value. So for this example, let's do least to greatest again. So I'm looking for my smallest digit in the ones place. So that is going to be the 6. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out that 6 and 99 hundredths. And I can go ahead and cross that out or eliminate it. And then can I compare these 7s that are left? I can't, because no one 7 is greater or less than the other. So I'm going to move to the 10ths place and compare these 7s in the 10ths place. So I know that 3 is going to be larger than these 2s, but I'm looking for which is least. So because the 2s are smaller than this 3, I need to compare these numbers first. Can I compare the 2s? I can't, because they're equal. So I'm going to go ahead and move to my hundredths place to compare these numbers only. I know that this 3 is greater, so it's going to come after these numbers. So 3 is smaller than the 9, so that means the 7 and 23 hundredths is going to be my next largest number, my next smallest number. Then, because the 9 was greater than the 3, that will come next. And then my greatest number is going to be this 7, oops, let's eliminate that, my 7 and 32 hundredths. So again, we can think of this in terms of money when comparing and ordering decimals. We know that this person with $6 has less money than all of these people with $7. And then if I look at these people with $7, I can look at their cents. 23 cents is less than 29 cents. 29 cents is less than 32 cents.